Former Central Michigan safety Trey Jones just committed to Texas A&M. When you hear his offer list, you'll be just as excited as I am.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today, we are going to discuss Texas A&M's most recent transfer portal addition, and that would be safety Trey Jones. Played at Central Michigan. He was a Chippewa. Look at the numbers over his last couple of seasons. Last two seasons, 151 tackles. He led Central Michigan last year in tackles. And, I think what's impressive about that for him is when you pull up these numbers on him. So let's run through the numbers on Trey Jones this season. He had 66 total tackles, interception, 2 pass deflections, a forced fumble. And then last season, he had 85 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections. This dude can play football. And like I said, what gets me the most excited about Jones is his offer list. I say this all the time. I think sometimes it happens more in high school than it does the portal. But we'll see a recruit and we'll go, he's a 3-star. Man, whatever. But then every once in a while, there's that 3-star that has offers from everywhere. And you go, oh, man. People want this. He's not your ordinary 3-star. Trey Jones is not your ordinary transfer portal player, in my opinion, because Georgia wanted him, LSU, Florida, Tennessee, all these schools offered Jones, and Mike Elko and company get the job done and land him. This is, in my opinion, a big addition. I think watching the tape, he's not afraid to tackle, and, that's important. At the end of the day, we see some corners, some safeties, defensive backs that don't love to tackle. They don't love to contact offensive players. Trey Jones likes to hit people. And when you're a safety, that is crucial. So the tape on Trey Jones does not lie about how good he is. And like I said, the offer list does not lie. This kid can play football. I think you could argue he could come right in and start, or at least compete for a spot. But I think legitimately you just went and grabbed a starter from the portal. This makes that's a little bit about Jones himself, but kind of the big picture here has to do with your secondary as a whole. And you brought in Will the Blanket Lee, which we are going to continue to reiterate how awesome of a nickname that is. And Trey Jones, you bring in Will Lee, Trey Jones, 2 secondary players, one from Kansas State and Will Lee, one from Central Michigan and Trey Jones, that can come in and fix your problems. One thing I will say, and it is simple as this, the transfer portal, the goal of the transfer portal is for a coach to look at his roster and go, I don't like this position group. I don't like this position group. We need more guys. We need better guys. We need more depth, whatever, and go get it done. And preferably with some talent, not just depth pieces. You want to go get some dudes. And these 2 defensive backs, to me, are high-quality football players that can help you immediately. I'm really excited to see what Trey Jones does next year. I think he's going to be a monster. I think he's just going to be so good for the Aggies next season. This is a big addition. And like I said, you have your additions that are kind of the what's the word? Here's some depth, right? I look at Trey Jones and I go, I said a minute ago, I think this guy's going to play. I do. So, I feel we all Aggie fans know how rough the secondary was last season. How often we saw players getting burned, long touchdowns. It needs to be fixed. Coach Elko's a defensive-minded guy. I know he looked at that tape and just went, "Oh goodness, what is no, thank you," and said, "We got to fix this." And went, and what did he do? He got 2 guys that he thinks can come in and help this football team immediately. So, and off the topic of just Trey Jones or the secondary, I think I think Coach Elko so far has done a good job filling in positions of need. You've seen him go get a linebacker, some receivers, some secondary players. All that's left is offensive linemen. They offered a few more today. We're going to discuss that in segment 3 today. I'm going to talk about kind of how I think this offense can flow in 2024. And a large part of that is going to have to do with the offensive line. So we'll discuss that in segment 3. But I think that's really the last position that I look at this roster and I go, yeah, you got to go get some dudes there. I wouldn't mind, bringing in maybe another linebacker. Wouldn't mind it. They're going after a tight end after losing Jake Johnson. Jake Johnson committed to North Carolina, by the way. He's following his brother, which I'm good for them. That's cool that they have a little family reunion down there in Chapel Hill. But I think this Trey Jones commit is a big deal. I think it's exciting. I think every Texas A&M fan should look at this and feel really good about this secondary moving forward, because we already know, listen, you've got some talent coming in this class. You've got some talent that you had that was freshman last season, and now you're bringing a couple transfers. Your issue last year was you had a lot of young guys and a lot of veterans who didn't really veteran transfers didn't pan out, in my opinion. I think that was kind of you had some of those sophomore juniors, but it was a lot of freshmen, a lot of old transfers didn't pan out. Now you have a mixture of young freshmen, sophomores and juniors, transfers, seniors. You got everything you need in this room. I feel pretty confident in how the secondary is gonna move in the right direction this season. I think coaching has stuff to do with that too. You bring in a new secondary coach. You bring in some new players via the portal. I think this secondary will be better next season. There's still stuff to coach up. There's still stuff to fix. You still want some of the players on your roster from last season to next season to improve as well. But bringing in these guys in the portal, worst case scenario, even if we don't see them get a ton of snaps, like for example, like Tony Grimes, right? We thought he was going to be amazing from the portal, and he didn't really do anything. Well, he didn't really. I mean, he didn't do anything at all. So this stuff can happen. But what it does do is it drives competition. And I always say competition is so important for a roster. I think it really does make players work harder. I think it makes the players, look over their shoulder. And I think looking over your shoulder is a good thing when it comes to when it comes to a player on a roster, because at the end of the day, if you're looking over your shoulder, you're working hard. And if you are motivated and want to succeed, you're going to work hard in the offseason. I think having a ton of competition in a room creates more of that. Ooh, if I don't work hard this offseason, this guy's right on my tail, I could lose my job. And I think that's what we're going to see from this roster as a whole, and now in the secondary, thanks to a couple massive transfer portal additions. So Trey Jones, the former Central Michigan Chippewa, 6'2", 215-pound safety, big offer list, talented football player. I think he can come in and start immediately. Going to have a very, very good season for the Aggies, and I can't wait to see him in maroon playing in Kyle Field. This dude can ball. So, some rumors are floating around about Walter Nolen. We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So, conversation about Walter Nolen. And I want to start this. I don't have a ton of information on this. I'm recording this super late. I was at an NBA game. I told y'all I've been recording in the mornings. I went to an NBA game last night, got home, and was going to go to bed. I was like, I'm just going to record. Like, nothing's going to change. It's 1:47 in the morning. My time. I was like, nothing's going to change between now and when the show goes up. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and record. So the Walter Nolen stuff, I don't know much. All I know is that, so I don't want this to sound like I'm saying, hey, he's coming back. I don't know much. I haven't been able to really dig on this yet because it's so late. But Walter Nolen, it sounds like there's some rumors floating around that maybe he will pull his name out of the transfer portal. Now, I'm not going to sit here and really speculate on that. I'm more going to talk about what it would mean if you did get Nolen to pull his name out of the portal and return to Texas A&M. And, we discuss this all the time. Let's do this. So we're going to play. So once again, I want to reiterate here, we are playing a hypothetical game based on some Twitter rumors from some people I respect that I think it could be a serious conversation. So let's say Walter Nolen played last season at Tennessee, right? Or we'll say Ole Miss because Ole Miss is one of the schools pushing hard after him, right? So let's say Walter Nolen was at Ole Miss last year, and he entered the portal, and you bring him into Texas A&M. You are getting like the number one player in the entire transfer portal. How excited would we be if that was the case? I think a lot of people look at this and go and look at it as almost like expected. Like, well, hey, he was on our roster. We know what we're getting in him. That's kind of like the mentality we have. You have to look at this. If this were to happen, this could get shut down at 9 a.m. He could commit to Ole Miss today at 11. I mean, there's no telling what can happen here. But if you do get Walter Nolen to come back, it would be so huge for this defense. We're going to run through the offense and kind of, like I said, in segment 3, and I'm going to kind of talk about what could it look like next year, who's going to succeed, why I think it's going to be solid next year. But bringing back Walter Nolen would just be massive for this football team. We know who he is. We know how talented he is. And I think, frankly, that this new coaching staff he had a good year last year. He had a good freshman year. But I think this coaching staff right now, Coach Elko, everybody at Texas A&M right now can get the most out of Walter Nolen. And Walter Nolen, if you can get everything out of him as a first-round draft pick, that is how good he can be. And I think will be. So you want that to happen at Texas A&M. You don't want that to happen at Ole Miss, or I know he visited Oregon. So, like I said, I discuss how sometimes the most significant gets are keeping guys around, and that would be the case if you brought back Walter Nolen. So this is one of those things you just got to really hope that the coaching staff can get this done. I think that, like I said, everything I'm seeing, some people I've talked to, there's a chance. I wouldn't say that it's not a guarantee, obviously, but there's a chance, and a chance is better than nothing, and that's what it felt like for a while. Hopefully, we get some more news on this today. Hopefully, we get some more credible sources to kind of say, hey, is there any realisticness to this rumor? Is it just a rumor? Did somebody say something and people ran with it? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I just think it would be so huge for Texas A&M's 2024 football team. And I don't think, I say this a lot, I know, we all know, everybody here that listens to Locked On Aggies, all you everydayers, know how important bringing back Walter Nolen would be for this roster. So we'll just have to wait today. Like I say, if we get some news on this today, like I said, I'm recording this late night, Monday night, so this will be coming out in about 6 hours. If I get any news, I'll put it in the comments on YouTube, but it'll be really fun to follow this storyline, see what happens here. But golly, your roster gets a whole heck of a lot better looking at next season if Walter Nolen decides to pull his name out of the transfer portal and return to Texas A&M. Hopefully the coaching staff can get this done. Coach Elko, I think, can sell a vision. I think his vision is very positive for the future of this football program. I think if he goes to Walter Nolen and says, look what I've done in my career, look at the players I've developed, let me help you, let me get you into the first round of the NFL draft, maybe you can get him back on campus, maybe you can get him back on the roster. And you got to look at it, like I said, as, hey, we just landed the best player in the whole transfer portal. That is how you have to look at this. If Coach Elko and company can get this done, that's what's happening. So, like I said, I don't want anybody to think, all I'm doing is saying kind of what I know right now, which is not much. We'll find out more today, I assume. So I will let everybody know when I hear more. If y'all have any when you're watching, if you have any more up-to-date information on this storyline, put that in the comments. Let me know. I'll be very curious, and I will obviously we'll be monitoring this like a hawk, and I will keep all this information as current as possible. So, but let me know if y'all hear anything in the YouTube comments, and I will do the same. So appreciate that. Now we are going to talk about the outlook for Texas A&M's offense in 2024. And I'm going to once again rant, not as long today, just for a little bit, about the importance of the offensive line. We're going to do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So I was just sitting here thinking, driving home from this NBA game. I didn't have to drive, which was nice. Got to ride. And, I was thinking, Conor Wigman could have a monster season next year. And I want to add some points to that thought. I saw a tweet, and it was talking about returning SEC starters and newcomers and what's the SEC quarterback landscape going to look like next season. I think there's a world where Conor Wigman, we look at him as one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC next year heading into the season. We know who he is. We saw what he can be last year before going down against Auburn with the injury. And like I said, Conor Wigman, when he went down, power rankings, SEC quarterback wise, was starting to be looked at as one of the top quarterbacks in the conference. I have every bit of confidence that Conor Wigman will be looked at in that same light next season when he's back healthy, back on the field, and playing really high quality football. But in terms of this offense, learning more about Coach Klein, watching more Kansas State tape, I just get more and more and more and more excited for what this offense could look like in 2024. Texas A&M has so many weapons, so many more weapons than Coach Klein had at Kansas State. And look what he got out of those players at Kansas State. I think, it's the name of the game right now at Texas A&M. It's something that we have discussed time and time again when we talked about bringing in a new coaching staff. You are going to have the dudes. You have to develop them. And I believe Coach Klein can get the best out of this offense. I think he can have this offense as one of the top offenses in college football next season. That quick of a turnaround simply thanks to the talented players he has on the roster. So, like we found out Noah Thomas is coming back. We found out Le'Veon Moss is coming back. You're getting your dudes back on offense. You are getting your players back. And, it's a point I try and make all the time. Whenever people ask me, other SEC fans, colleagues of mine that cover other SEC teams, And they're always like, Andrew, through the good and the bad, it seems like you always have this, there's hope for Texas A&M's football program. And why? And I always respond, and this was mainly during the Coach Fisher tenure, my response was kind of, I don't know how much I love this coaching staff, but I believe in the talent on this roster. And if it clicks, it clicks. Now, I believe in this coaching staff to develop talent. That is the name of the game. If Coach Klein, Coach Elko can get the most out of this roster, it will be one of the best rosters in college football, like it has been for years and years and years. But the previous regime couldn't get the most out of their talent. Why that is interesting. I actually do plan, not today, probably deeper into the offseason, but to do like a what went wrong with the Jimbo Fisher era kind of saga episode and discuss that. I think it'll be a fun episode. But, that's not a today conversation. I just think this offense next season under Coach Klein could be spectacular thanks to who you got. Well, I mean, watching what he did, and this is a comment I made about Coach Elko, same thing. He proved that he can do more with less. Coach Fisher, year in and year out, day by day, every single second he was at Texas A&M, proved he could do less with more. Less with more is not successful when it comes to having one of the best rosters in college football. Coach Klein and Coach Elko have proved they can do more with less, and I think that is why they can get the most out of this roster. And if they can do that, I think Texas A&M can have a special season next year, the year after. I've already discussed how easy the 2024 schedule is. So, that is kind of my thoughts on the offense, but I want to add a few caveats to that. I kind of alluded to this earlier. The number one caveat I have to that argument of how good this offense could be is offensive line. Simple as this. I mean, it is simple as this. If the offensive line, if you don't get some guys in the portal, the offense won't be good. I don't know how else. I can't paint that picture any clearer. I really can't. Offensive line play is everything. You can have a great quarterback, great tight end, receiver, running back, but if you have an offensive line that isn't creating holes for the running backs and isn't giving your quarterback time in the pocket, it does not matter. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my whole argument about the importance of the offensive line recruiting in the transfer portal. Now, Texas A&M has offered some guys today, some previous. They're going to go get some guys. I'm not worried about them not going to get anybody, but I want you to go get some top offensive linemen. This is where, spend a little bit of money. Go get some legitimate, proven offensive linemen, preferably from the Power 5 level. I like the offensive line coach. I think he's proven he can develop. I think he's proven that he can have a good offensive line. Once again, a good offensive line with less talent than you're going to have. I believe he is going to do more with less, or he's going to do more with more, because he's already proven he can do more with less. Now he's going to prove he can do more with more. So if you go get the offensive lineman, this offense is going to be great in 2024. We know who you have in the backfield running the football. We know who you have out catching passes. We know who you have throwing the ball. If this offensive line can block for those players with Coach Klein calling plays, and I think he's going to be incredibly successful doing that, this Texas A&M football team and this Texas A&M offense will be incredible in 2024. If you don't go get those offensive linemen, it could be a struggle. So let me know in the YouTube comments. And once again, I reiterate this again. Any news on Walter Nolen, if anybody sees anything, let me know in the YouTube comments. I will do the same. And then also let me know in the YouTube comments, how do we feel about, let's do this. How do you feel? Give me A and B. How do you feel about this offense next season if Texas A&M brings in 2 or 3 proven offensive line players from the portal? And then B, give me, how do you feel about this offense if they really don't bring in a ton of offensive linemen in the portal? Let me know how you feel about the offense, kind of A and B there. I'm really curious to hear y'all's thoughts. So let me know those two things in the YouTube comments. Signing day is coming up on Wednesday. We will have a ton of coverage from that. We will break down anything crazy happen, any flips, any decommits, anything crazy like that. We will have all of that coming to you right here at Locked On Aggies. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday, I'll kind of on that episode, I'll kind of give you, hey, what's the plan? What are we doing for signing day, and kind of run through what that's going to look like. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much to you everydayers tuning in, to new listeners. I really appreciate y'all being here. I want to say, this month, a lot of it thanks to the coaching turnover, but it's brought a lot of new faces here to Locked On Aggies. And I just really do want to say I appreciate each and every one of you so very much that are here every day, listen every day, comment every day. I just appreciate all y'all so much, and I hope you know that. So everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow.